Hey, BassGeek here. And most anglers think of a Ned rig as being a pretty simple bait. Thread on a little piece of plastic, drag it across the bottom, catch bass. But what if I told you with the right group of plastics, you could turn it into an entire finesse bait system? And today I'm going to show you how this little system has changed the way that I fish a Ned rig forever, and how you can combine these lures, mix and match to fit any condition you may face. During the summer, one of the best times to target bass that are feeding on crawdads or crayfish or whatever you want to call it is around the new moon, and that's the pattern we've been on today. We've been fishing rocky points. Sometimes it'll have sparse grass on it, which is even better, or some sort of wood, but the key is the rock. Along with, we're in that 3 before and 3 after of the new moon. Juvenile craws will molt 8 to 10 times a year. During that time, they shed that exoskeleton and they become a soft, juicy treat for bass. And that's why they do it on the darkest of nights during that new moon, because it gives them a little added protection. And that's where we've been using this incredible little finesse system to mimic those juvenile craws and catching some really good bass. So the whole idea behind this system is to keep everything that makes a Ned rig so effective, but at the same time, giving the bass a different profile than they've ever seen. The Javelin gives you that small Ned rig worm profile that bass just love to eat. The little Vig tube changes the profile and presentation without changing that finesse approach. When put together, they create a different presentation than a standard Ned rig worm or a standard little tube. Rigging this is pretty simple. You just take the Javelin and push it down inside the FITT Vig tube until it's nice and snug. Then you take your Ned head, run through both baits, and come out just like you would normally with any Ned rig setup. So today we're going to focus on the Vig tube and the Javelin combo because we've been fishing for bass that are feeding on craws today. But don't count out using a little paddle tail. They've got a swim worm. This is one of their little swim baits. There's a whole host of things on their website that you can actually rig up this way and catch a ton of fish because you're showing them a whole different profile. When it comes to color, I'm keeping it really simple. If they're feeding on crawfish, I'm using some sort of crawfish pattern. But if they're feeding on shad, and by the way, here's a tip that we're not really talking about today, this makes an incredible jig head, open water little bait. But if they're feeding on shad, then I keep it pretty simple in my shad style patterns. Now, they do make a ton of different colors, and you should really experiment and mix and match some of these colors in this little finesse system. So there's 2 ways I really like to fish this little finesse system. The first is when those bass aren't super aggressive, but they're still feeding on some of those crayfish. Fishing this presentation, I really need a rod that's got a fast action tip on it, something that's going to react quickly when those bass pick or hit that bait. But at the same time, I'm able to count the rocks as I'm dragging this bait down and out to me. Now, I want enough backbone to where I can lean in and set that hook, but we don't want a rod that's going to overpower this bait, that's going to move it long distances when we're just trying to move it very slowly, very easily along the bottom. That's why I like using this medium heavy, fast action. It is a 7-foot from Cash and Rods in the Core series. First, I don't ever want to move this bait with the reel itself. Second, I want a good enough drag system that's going to absorb those runs when those bass make them as I get them closer to the boat. And that's why I've teamed this rod up with this reel right here. This is the Lures Custom Pro, which you geeks know I've used for years. Line is the final piece of the puzzle. It's going to affect casting distance, abrasion resistance, visibility, and even the action of the bait. So I like to make long casts in the clear water I fish, and that's going to be starting with K9 braid. I'm going to throw 20-pound braid as my main line, and then I'm going to throw the Pro 100 as my leader, the 100% fluorocarbon. I'm going to go 8 to 10-pound test on that. The second presentation, I'm a little more aggressive. Really, it's my favorite way to fish this bait. You geeks have heard me talk about this retrieval a lot. It's probably one of my favorite bottom bouncing summer presentations for almost any bait. And what I'm going to do, especially because this is a little worm, I'm going to shake that line just a little bit, just the slack. I don't want the bait moving. Then I'm going to reel down and I'm going to drag it just a little bit. I'm going to shake that line again, but this time I'm not going to drag it. I'm going to give it a couple of little just twitches, small twitches, not going to move that rod too much. But we want to see if we can get a reaction out of those bass, and that's what that quick snap up and that fall down will get you a lot of times, is a reaction bite. So normally I bounce back and forth between these two retrieves and let the bass tell me how active they are. You're going to feel two bites. You're going to feel a thump and you're going to feel weight. Either way, lean into the fish. It is a Ned rig. It's a fine hook. You don't have to set it like you're swinging away at a jig. Most of the time I'm going to reel down and lean into it. After that, I'm going to let the drag do the work. I'm going to get that fish over to me. I'm going to let him play out, and then I'm either going to get him on my thumb or put him in a net. We're going to get his butt in the boat. The great thing about a net and the great thing about this is anybody can catch bass on it. I took my granddaughter out just last year. She caught a really nice 3-pounder, her first bass ever. It was an awesome, awesome day. But another rig that you can use for grown-ups and kids, and it just puts a lot of bass in the boat, you want to go check this video out right here. Otherwise, questions, comments in the comment section below. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell, be part of the 100% Watch Squad, and you geeks rock.